Ben and I recently went on a road trip to remember the decade that was the 2000s. That video will be on the main DriveTribe channel, but here's an uncut version of a conversation BC and I had specifically about the glory days of Top Gear.
Yes, I mean, we've talked 2000s television, but we really need to have a full conversation of its own about Top Gear. I've started with the series that you came in at, so Series 3.
Yes.
And the first thing
Although I started doing things in Series 2.
As
So,
the black stick.
At home I've actually got a black stick helmet.
Damn.
Actually, I don't think it really counts because it wasn't on the TV. It wasn't on TV, but I was doing some of the magazine bits, some of the event bits. Worked on one film, but not as the black stick. So I wasn't on camera as black stick, but I had the kit.
Well, Series 3, they have the death of the black stick.
Yeah.
To me, the highlight of that series was the Hilux being destroyed, which we went to that tree at the start of our last road trip where Jeremy
drove
stole
it into a
the
tree.
But to be honest, I kind of looked over it and there wasn't too much. That was when Top Gear was still this sort of poke motoring channel.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything crazy at that point. But if we go, I've got a whole list of every series that you were involved in during the 2000s, and it just amps up and up and up each time. So straight in with Series 4, we've got DB9 versus Eurostar. First sort of big road trip challenge movie. And then Apache Gunship versus Lotus Exige.
Yeah, that was cool.
So cool.
That was so cool. So we actually recreated that in the live shows. Indoor, Top Gear Live, it became known as, or the MPH show as it started out. They had a 3D Apache gunship flying around indoors, and I was in the Lotus.
Define
Matching moves.
3D.
You put your goggles on.
Oh, wow.
And the helicopter flew around the audience.
Right.
And it was firing rockets and missiles. It was brilliant. It was a fantastic idea. I was running away from it, basically. But obviously oblivious to anything happening in the background. Couldn't see the Apache, so we had to do these timed moves on the stopwatch. So I'd measure them out, so I could do a handbrake turn here, do a drift around there, and then eventually beat the Apache. But it was super cool. At the end of the film, the Apache used to shoot missiles at the audience, and you'd hear them go, ooh, ah. It was super cool.
And then two massive hitters in terms of on-track tests, Carrera GT and the SLR.
Yeah, I think, remember, the SLR was the week before we did the power test, that one went out. And actually the Carrera GT was only a bit quicker, but it was quicker.
Okay, and then Series 5 was the Enzo.
Yeah.
So that was the classic Nick Mason car.
Yes.
And you were able to rack that? He was happy with it being...
Yeah, I felt a little
hammered?
bit uncomfortable, but he was very chilled, but I was told, don't screw it up.
Yeah.
So I think, I do remember just being, so exit of Chicago, there's a dip. Sometimes the car would brake for free and really want to use that extra bit of space. And I was just conscious that not to curb the crap out of his car. That car, when you did brake fully, the front would touch.
Wow, the little nose just...
Yeah, which wasn't a good feeling. I think I did it once and realised actually that this is, at risk of damaging the car. So it's quite, that just goes to show how much suspension travel there was in that car.
And then following that is actually a test that I think is a bit underrated. It's Jeremy and Steve Coogan in Vanquish S, so upgrade to this car, and then the sort of track pack 575 Ferrari.
Yeah, the Ferrari's a beast.
Were
Great
you
car.
there doing the drifting shots for that, or was that actually Coogan and Clarkson giving it some?
That was me.
Okay.
That was a good day in the office. That was great. You start to fall in love with those front engine Ferraris. I still personally really only, the mid engine for me is where it's at, but it was interesting watching that trajectory, and it got very close with the whole Ferrari and then Corvette.
And then at the end of season 5, you've got the Renault F1 lap.
Yeah.
So who was that behind the wheel?
Kovalainen, who did that one.
Heikki
Kovalainen, that's him. I felt that lap could have been a bit quicker. That's not just me being, green-eyed monster, although I was very jealous. He got to rinse my favourite track, or one of my favourite tracks.
Was there any way you were going to be driving it?
No, I mean, I
always Kovalainen?
I didn't know that shoot was happening until they turned up. If it had been a Formula One team that I was known to, I probably would have had a good chance of squeezing into the seat, but Renault brought their driver, which is understandable.
Okay, Series 6, first power test, MC12. So off the back of the Enzo.
Yes.
Am I right in saying you think that's the superior car?
Yeah, I do. I was amazed by that car. I thought it was really fantastic. It's basically the same car. I love the way that Maserati take the same platform and do something slightly different, and occasionally it backfires and they make a better car, and the MC12 was a better car.
And then a couple episodes later, I think it's one of the greatest bits at the Dunstable track ever. the guys getting their mums
Oh,
to
yeah.
test the hatchbacks. I just thought that was the best, because I really enjoy seeing like the family connections there, and you're like, well, of course that's Hammond's mum, you
Yeah.
know, because you can just see it. I love seeing that sort of like, you know, door into their lives like that, and just thought it was so cool.
Saw them in passing of what they were doing. I was
Yeah.
on the way to do something else, but I
Yeah.
remember seeing it and laughing. I don't know why, but I seem to remember that was around the time we did the wig test. They brought a guy with a toupee on, and I had to take him out in various open-top cars and see if his wig stayed on,
Right? Oh yes, yes.
which was bizarre. And again, there's never an explanation. It's just, oh, can you hop in with so-and-so?
Yes,
his
there
wig-
was some odd stuff back then. There's also stuff like, you know, the fastest politician and like
That's right.
stuff like
Yeah.
that they would just never do nowadays.
Yeah. We did it, well, I did a 24-hour race with Hammond, and we had the racing Reverend, the racing Rastafarian, and someone else. Richard and me. That was my first job, and I think that was early doors, maybe 2002, or early 2003.
Where was it?
Snetterton.
Wow.
In a 2CV. It's the slowest racing I've ever done. You didn't have to lift for any corner. It didn't matter how slow the corner was, all tight. Everything was flat out. It was quite dull.
And then another big race, SLR versus the boat to Oslo. Jeremy essentially driving through the night, down through Europe, Denmark, and then up to Oslo versus the ferry. But I know in some races you drove back. I'm guessing that
Was
the
all.
one you were involved
That
with?
must have been all him. He probably turned around at the end of that and said, "Right, next time I want a break at the end."
Yes.
So when we got to Turin, that was my turn, which was great. So they came from Turin to London. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So we met them up at the tower. Was it not the Oxo? Anyway, we're central London to pick the keys up, which was awesome to retrace his steps.
And then the final one, Series 6, was the amazing Sabine Schmitz in the van.
Yes.
Trying to beat Jeremy's time. She did manage it, but my God, did she drive the hell out of that thing.
I think what's amazing with Sabine is that obviously she just knew the track so well, and she was proper fast and everything. You know, she had an amazing career racing. I think it's just great seeing Jeremy served up,
Yes.
and I think because he just didn't see it coming, and also Sabine had a wonderful twinkle in the eye that was very disarming, but belied the fact that she was actually incredibly competitive. But watching her in the van was amazing.
I've got that quote stuck in my head. I do that time in a van.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay,
And it was just
off you go.
off the cuff and completely real. Mind you, we did get some revenge from that on the Top Gear versus Germans.
Yes, that's again one of my. I think I've said to you this before. Like that moment, I was so hyped up as a kid when you're listening to that Aston and the Porsche coming up the hill at Zolder, and you're just waiting to see which one comes over the crest first, and it's you in the Aston.
Yeah, it was close.
You were saying, I think we've done this before on camera. You were saying that the throttle was stuck open on that thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was all the last minute. It was the last bit of the day. All the the more important stuff with them doing their interaction and everything. And it was like, quick, we're going to do the race now. It's like, so we went down 5 to 5, so the track's about to close. So I decided to jump in it, went round. The other driver was already going round, warming his tyres up. And then I went straight out and the throttle jammed open. So 100% throttle, which is not what you want, which is going to slow down.
God.
And it stayed like that. So actually, yeah, in the race, if you watch it, you can see going into the first corner, the front right is locked all the way into the apex. Because I had the brake on trying to slow it down. The throttle was doing its own thing.
Oh my God.
But normally you would just put the clutch in, but you're going to lose the race. So I had to stay in it, basically. I was nervous though, because I was thinking, if this goes wrong at the chicane or something, I didn't want to, cause an accident. But it did start to behave towards the end, and thank God I got past him.
And was it a legit pass?
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't helping
Okay.
at all.
Wow. So it wasn't like, right guys, we'll do this race now. The Brits have to win.
He did not want me coming back. That's why he's warming his tyres up. He was getting them as hot as possible.
Wow.
So I think, by the end of lap 2 or whatever it was we had, I got him close enough. It was a massive lunge there's a sharp right-hander. It's almost a hairpin, but not quite. Managed to get him, but that was good. A genuine reaction, I think. I don't know what they'd have done if I'd lost.
And Series 7, again, this is just like the next step up. So we've got the Isle of Man supercar shootout.
Yep.
So you guys closing the roads up there in the pissing rain, and you know, you giving it the full whack on public roads. That was the Vantage, the M6, and the 911.
Yeah.
Out of those three, which one are you taking home?
The most relaxing, if you can call it that, given that I'd never seen the roads in my life. And could I go and have a look around? No, we haven't got time for that. We drove up the hill, and that was me looking at the road. And then I remember sitting in each car, and I was saying, I think Wilman was there around. I said, "Can we get, please, can we go?" Because the fog was coming in, and it was getting worse and worse until when we actually went, you could really barely see. There was massive, gaps. You want to see as far ahead as you can, getting those speeds. So actually, the confidence did play a part in just the sensation, the feeling of it, and the Porsche was easily the most planted. But I went absolutely flat out in all three of them. You can't do anything less, especially for something like that. They were judging the cars based on the time.
Yep.
You just can't be anything less than fully committed, because if that would show up on the stopwatch, you'd be 1.5, 2 seconds out. So I think actually, as it turned out, I was pleased because I knew I'd gone full bore in all three cars, and they were within a couple of tenths of each other, which is right. But the Porsche was better. That was the take-home car.
Now, on that Isle of Man trip, did you stay at Jeremy's place?
Yeah,
he had the lighthouse, didn't he?
Yeah, it was really cool. So we were all in there, and Francie was there looking after us, and we had a great time. So it was quite a busy shoot. We were knackered, long days, but really, really fun. And it was an absolutely stunning place to live. And you got no speed limits.
Yeah.
What I mean, for us, that was just like manna.
You can go past the police at 120 and it's all good.
Yeah, we saw the police. They were pretty cool. It's interesting because they can still do you for dangerous driving.
Yes, they can.
I think is what makes sense. And generally speaking, people are pretty behaved there.
And then to finish off that series was the Top Gear Winter Olympics. Again, just like upping it to another level, just like this special that's just all about kicking the crap out of cars on the ice. So how much of that were you involved with?
I was there for all of that.
Cool.
The best part was they suddenly decided that they wanted to see the Stig skiing. It says, right, can you go out? And that's going. So I went to go and practice to make, to get some good stuff. We never shot it, so I basically had a day's skiing holiday, which is pretty sweet. We had a Jaguar out there, which I remember quite well. We had it.
Was that on the ice rink? The XK?
Yes.
Versus the Skater?
Yep, that was that. That was epic. And the car was very slow because it had no spikes. So it was obviously Olympic grade ice rink.
Yes.
So we weren't allowed to scratch it. And then they were saying, can you not go any faster? It's like, no.
literally
absolutely can't.
Yeah.
And then the ice skater turned up with these legs, like the thighs were like tree trunks, like solid oak. And he was like a high performance car, like Formula One engine. He had to be warmed up very specifically. Once he was warmed up, he had to shoot within the 2 minutes that he was warm.
Wow.
For not getting an injury, all of which made complete sense to anyone, normal sort of looking at it. Of course, then, the crew wasn't ready in 2 minutes and all that malarkey. But yeah, and watching him on the ice was amazing. So that was really cool to see him up close, like a real pinnacle athlete. The most fun I had on that shoot were two things actually. One was the extension of car football. So they had these complete nutters. They had a load of rally drivers, locals came in to do that. So the car football was always quite physical, and they were on another level. They were absolutely off their mind, and the cars were rolling. And also the rink that we were in, or the sort of area, was snow. It all just got crushed. You kept getting stuck and all that sort of stuff. But at the beginning, when you could move, they would just drive into you as fast as possible. About 3 of them tipped onto their roof, and all that malarkey. That and the Mini. So I had nothing to do with the Mini that went down the ski jump. So we were just prattling around, sliding down on our feet down the landing strip, but looking at it and thinking, this looks nuts. And the guy behind it, the Rocketeer, I sort of was asking him, because we looked down, and when you're at the top, you look down, the bottom bit looks about the same size as a beer mat, looks tiny basically. Yeah. And the takeoff ramps look vertical, and it looks like it would just go to infinity and beyond. Yeah. And beyond the beer mat was the town, all lit up and everything. I said to this bloke, how much thrust have you got in that thing? Thrust to weight ratio as an F16, and it's packed like a bomb.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
And I said, what if it just takes off and just goes past all of that stuff? It could go straight into the town. And he was, I know, we're very confident in our calculations. I was looking at it, it looked so homemade. But actually, they calculated it perfectly. Yeah. And then as it took off, and it doesn't come across on TV, but it made a Millennium Falcon sound, and it went, whoa, as it took off. The little rockets it was flying through the air, it landed perfectly, then crashed into the bales. And it was unmanned, obviously, because it was going to get massively smashed. Plus the potential it could have flown to the moon and you just win a Darwin Award. But there were locals coming around asking to try and drive. They wanted to drive the car. The production was like, no, can't do that.
How long is a shoot like that? Is that like a week, couple
That was
of
a
weeks?
week, that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that I was particularly productive during that week.